Hey, welcome back to Home Studio Pro. I'm so excited you're here, and I can't wait to get into this video. It's a comparison of the Neumanns. I've got them both here. A little crowded. The U87AI and the TLM-103. A lot of people want to know what exactly is similar between these two mics, but most importantly, what is the difference? Beyond price point and maybe size and physical appearance, how do they sound? Different? Similar? Close, far apart? I will get into all of that and I'll describe it, but yeah, of course, I also want you to hear it. So look right below me for what microphone you're actually hearing at the exact moment. I've had both of these microphones for several years. I know them quite well, and right now you're hearing both of them fully processed through my respective signal chains. Later on, I'll take away that processing. You can hear them each completely dry. Overall, here's how I would describe it. They are similar, right? They're relatives. They're both the Neumann family, but they're definitely not identical. Which one is best for you? Well, a large part of that is predicated on your budget, how much you're willing to spend, what you're planning to do with this microphone. I will get into some pros and cons for each and some specific use cases in just a few minutes, but it's ultimately determined by your needs. If you get the 103, you're going to be so happy with it. If you get the U87, you're going to be stoked to have that in your locker or hanging on your mic arm on an everyday basis. So yes, similar enough, but different enough to do this video. We'll get into the sound characteristics in just a few minutes. The similarities go like this. Build quality, 1,000% Neumann microphones. They use a similar capsule. I guess grill up, they have a similar appearance, but the big thing is the Neumann sound you're going to get out of both these microphones. And that kind of goes very much for you, but also against you if you're not recording in a treated space. These are condenser microphones of the ultimate quality. The detail that they are able to replicate is tremendous. What I'm telling you is that if you're recording in a non-treated space or room, you're going to hear that through these microphones. That's going to be magnified. You're not fixing the problem by buying one of these more expensive microphones. That's only going to enhance the problem with your room. So make sure that you use this Neumann sound in a recording space that is appropriate for what you're trying to do. Set that bar really high. Those are the similarities between these two microphones. Frequency response is where we start to get some of the big differences here. The U87AI is amazingly flat. When you look from the low to the mid to the high frequencies, there is a little bit of a gentle presence boost up high, but everything before that, literally completely flat. And because there is no low-end boost, like you see with a lot of microphones, and there's just that little gentle top-end presence, it feels mid-heavy because it's not really a V-shaped microphone. The TLM-103 is a bit of a V-shaped microphone. Whatever the charts tell you or not, this microphone has a little bit of a low-end push and a top-end sizzle. It's got that on the low and high side. The 87 is really flat, little top end, but like I said, because of that, it feels like the mids are heavy, like the 1,000 to 3,000 hertz range is heavy, but it's not. It's just that flat, those mid frequencies, those mid frequencies feel heavy, feel pronounced. And so without any EQ or processing, if you're just recording this microphone dry, which you'll hear in a second, it may not complement your voice in the same way that one of these like V-shaped microphones might initially sound with no processing. And yeah, the TLM-103 does to me feel a bit more V-shaped. It's got that presence boost even more than the U87, but I also feel like when you really get in here and work the microphone, it gives you great proximity effect, maybe even more than the U87. High presence, that high frequency area, you can hear it, also adds to a lot of clarity. Okay, so you've heard enough of these two microphones processed. Let's get into both of their signals now, completely unprocessed. Okay, I've taken off all the processing from each of these microphones, and this is the true sample of how they sound, right? No EQ, no compression, no expansion, none of that. I do have some nice signal chains, ones that I really like for both of these microphones. They run through the Universal Audio Apollo Twin X here on my desk. And by the way, there are separate videos for each of these microphones also on my channel that show you the precise signal chain, all the exact settings that I use if you want to get a similar sound. But here's how they sound, completely dry and raw and unprocessed. And I'm telling you, it starts here, right? You really want to have that flat sound on the U87, for example, because then you get to sculpt it. And the 103 is still relatively flat. There's a bunch of other mics out there that are hyped or boosted or cut in certain frequencies. And because of that, you don't get to go in after the fact and make the ultimate changes you want. It's not really a blank canvas, so to speak. And that's why, these flatter mics are a bit more preferable. So again, you've heard both of them here, completely unprocessed, probably a little bit of a different sound. Some people like this flat, raw sound. They prefer it here on my channel. I'm sure I'll hear it in the comments below. But I wanted to give you a taste of what they both sound like with no processing, no EQ, none of that. I'll probably fix the levels at the end just to match them. But here's what they sound like straight out of the box into any recorder. Okay, and we're back, fully processed on both sides. So let's move on from frequency response to self-noise. Now, both of these microphones very low in this category, like the U87, 12 dB of self-noise. That is really good for a condenser microphone. Dynamics have even more than that. What is self-noise? It's that little bit of hiss that when I don't talk and without gating or expansion, you hear a little bit of that microphone noise, that electrical noise, that preamp noise that's in the background. Condensers don't really have this. They don't suffer from this like dynamics do, but 12 dB of self-noise in the very good category. 7 dB of self-noise, right? The lower the better. 7 dB is unbelievable for the TLM 103. And that's why I highly recommend this microphone if you want to do ASMR. If ASMR is your thing, actually, yeah. Now we're really getting to ASMR, whispering all of the hand noises and all that stuff. Whatever. All right, let's reset here. I got too far. By the way, I am doing an ASMR video, how to make ASMR with this mic. This is a great mic for whispering or soft-spoken people. There are some flaws to it, which I'll describe in just a second. But if you are recording soft sounds, soft noises, maybe you're doing just Foley work, this is a tremendous mic because the self-noise is so low, you can bring up the gain extremely high and not have any kind of distortion in your recording. This microphone, the 87 is great. 12 dB, amazing. But 7 dB, literally unheard of. Ha, get it? Unheard of. Wink, wink. All right, let's move on to the output. Not a big difference here. The 87, slightly hotter than the 103, but the 103 is typical for a condenser mic. We might be talking about 1.5 dB to maybe 2 dB hotter for the U87. Negligible, but just something that is a difference across the board. So just to kind of sum this up, biggest differences, sound profile, frequency response, a little bit more of a proximity effect that you can use, definitely a higher top end, more pronounced, super flat across the board, a little bit of a higher output volume, little bit more self-noise, barely any self-noise with the TLM 103. All right, let's move on to the options here. This is also something that differentiates the microphones. The U87 has 3 different polar patterns. I'm on cardioid right now, but it also has a circular pattern as well as a figure 8. It's got a 10 dB pad switch, which is on the back left here. And it's also got a low-cut filter option. And you know what? Let me show you what that sounds like. Sorry about all that handling noise there, but here is my voice now. Yeah, on this microphone with the low-cut filter engaged. I don't remember exactly off the top of my head where it goes up to, maybe 200 hertz, something like that. It does significantly feel like the bottom end has been cut off right now, but it doesn't sound bad at all. In fact, if I was doing long-form narration with this microphone, I think I would engage this switch. Even with my signal chain right now, processing all the rest of it, to do this low cut on the microphone, it is a nice option. It gives you a different sound. They call it the NPR switch on the back. NPR is famous for using this microphone exclusively in its studios, right? And they have a pristine audio sound, but they always turn the low-cut filter on. They engage it to take away all that low-end rumble and bass. They don't want it in their their newsreaders' voices. So to be honest, I kind of like the way that sounds. Okay, I'll bring it back. Oh yeah, you can hear that beefiness has returned. So those are the switches and options on the 87 that the 103 has nothing. No bells, whistles, buttons, knobs, switches. It has nothing, and that's fine. I mean, honestly, I pretty much leave the 87 just like this, how this one is all the time. So what are you missing if you have a 103 versus an 87? For me, not really much. So decision time. Oh my goodness, that's kind of the point of this video. I'm trying to help you hear the sounds, but how about if you actually are trying to make a decision buying this one or spending a lot more and getting this one? If you have a sibilant voice, higher registers, a lot of all those sounds, I would maybe have you lean away from the TLM 103. Now you can EQ all that stuff out of it, like you can fix it, but if you're not going to do any kind of post-production or real-time DSP on your voice like in a live stream, like the 103 is very present. It's got a very sparkly top end. So you're going to have to do some work to take out some of that sibilance in your voice. The U87 does not seem to suffer from emphasizing that sibilance as much. So if that's a consideration, the U87. But if you will not be adding any EQ to these microphones, which kind of goes against the idea, right? You're going to spend money on Neumann quality, give it a good signal chain to work with, or at least a really good preamp with some EQ. But if you're not doing anything, no channel strip, no nothing, if you're recording straight in to your device, your interface, your recorder, then yeah, I would say use the TLM 103. It's, like I said, a little bit more V-shaped, a little bit more fun microphone. It pronounces the voice. It's got some polish on the voice with no processing that the 87 doesn't necessarily have because, again, it's so flat, it's so mid-heavy. So that's a consideration. But if it comes down to budget, I got to tell you, you are going to be happy, you are going to be stoked with the TLM 103. I'm putting these side by side to make a point here. You can get 3 TLM 103s, 3.5, basically, for the cost of 1 U87. 3 versus 1. A whole studio of these, well, 3, or 1 of these. And it just depends on what you're trying to do. This microphone, at a third of the cost, can literally get you about 90% of the way that this one does. I think that's a fair way to put it. A third of the cost, 90% of what this microphone does. Definitely a consideration. If you think you're cutting yourself short by buying the 103, you're absolutely not. You'll be thrilled to own this. You will be elated to have this. You are going to get something great out of both of these microphones. You cannot go wrong here, trust me. And you can always upgrade. This is a great one to start with. But if you want to go to the U87, if you just want to go right there, I would not go against that either. So there they are, the U87 AI and the TLM 103. Hopefully this video helped you kind of sort out what are the biggest similarities, what are the differences. I mean, I understand why they're put in the same conversation. There are enough similarities to do that, but hopefully I've also described the biggest differences between these two mics. I'm so glad you were here for this video. If you like this type of stuff, I've got a lot more coming, so subscribe to this channel. I'd really appreciate that. And thumbs up on this video if it provided you with some value. That would greatly provide me with some value in return. I'll see you next time.